time in the world, time enough for life to unfold all the precious things love has in store. We have all the time in the world just for love, nothing more, nothing less, only love. Only love.
Buon pomeriggio a tutti.
Good afternoon to everyone. Today it's a great celebration for the consortium that is, got finally to the 100-year anniversary, and it is a great joy for us to celebrate this important event in this wonderful location, which for us it's really a matter of identity, because the black rooster is one is actually painted on the coffered ceiling as painted by Vasari almost 500 years ago. Before giving you a short introduction about the themes of this event, I would like to share with you some greetings. And first of all, we received a message of greetings by the Prime Minister, Mrs. Giorgia Meloni, that I would like to thank heartfully for her message, but also I would like to thank the Minister of Agriculture, of Food Sovereignty and Forests, Mr. Francesco Lollobrigida, for his presence, but also the great attention to the world of wine. Also, I would like to thank all the other institutions that were absolutely eager to accept our kind invitation. Mr. Gianni, the chairman of the regional government, is about to join us, but also Patrizio La Pietra. But also the MP Emilio Carloni, who is part of the Chamber of Deputies of the Italian government, and also thanks to the prefect of Florence, Francesca Ferrandino, for her presence to this event, but also the mayor, Nario Mardella, for this wonderful hospitality. And also I would like to thank Mr. Giovanni Bettarini, the councillor of the municipality of Florence, for hosting us. Also I would like to thank the councillor for agriculture, Mrs. Susanna Saccardi, the General Secretary of the Ministry of Education, Mario Turetta, but also Massimo Guasconi, the Chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, the American Consul, but also the Superintendent of the Fine Arts of Florence, and all the mayors of all the cities that are part of or towns that are part of the Chianti Classico that are gathered in this very room. Also, I would really like to greet Giuseppe Salvini, who is the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, but also all the representatives of the consortiums, the president of the Coldiretti Farmers Association, and all the other farmers associations of Italy that are gathered in this room. Also, many thanks to the wonderful friends that are with us today, Giallorusso, Zingarelli, and all the other producers of the Chianti Classico that we are celebrating today. Also, I would like to thank today's speaker, Matteo Ascheri, the chairman of the Barolo, Barbaresco, Langhe, and Gioiani. Thank you for being with us. But also Gilberto Igreas, chairman of the Port and Douro Wines from Portugal. Morgan McLaughlin, executive director of Willamette Valley Wineries Association and Wine Foundation of Oregon. Thibaut Hubert, chairman of the Confederation of the Denominations of Bourgogne, France. David Chatillon et Maxime Toubard, the co-chair of the Champagne Committee from France. Really, thank you for being with us and welcome. Professor Paola Eugenio Falini and all the participants that will share with us the roundtable at the end of the afternoon. But please allow me to really thank the 23 viticulture that on May 14th, 1924 decided to join forces and leaving aside their personal interests in order to defend and promote the result of their work, which was the Chianti Classico wine. These are the main purposes of the activities of the consortium: defense and promotion, protecting a wine that comes from a beautiful countryside like the Chianti Classico one, and supporting the winemakers on the markets of the entire world. The common traits among all the founding fathers that can be found in all the members of the consortium over the years is that, in addition to love the Chianti area, there is another thing that joins them, that unites them, because that was something that took place during the entire life of the consortium. Their ability of being clairvoyants, of really looking far in the future, because they created a common house in 1924, and they decided to have the Black Rooster as their identity brand, such a visual identity brand that has always been the symbol of the Chianti area, connecting forever the wine that was made there to the territory. And this is something that has to be highlighted. 100 years ago, they already had this wonderful and modern idea to connect this product to the country of origin, to the area of origin, strengthening, their relationship with this sort of common flag, the Gallo Nero, the black rooster, that is the symbol of that area since the 14th century. So a great, fantastic marketing idea many years ago, but also great attention to the territory when the Chianti winemakers decided to actually keep many agricultural workers that were actually migrating from the countryside to the cities in the light of economic difficulties. But also again in 1990, another great innovation with the creation of the Chianti Classico 2000 research project that was absolutely important, for promoting the quality of our products, by studying, for instance, the different grapes, the Sangiovese more particularly, but also trying to maintain the territorial identity, but also with great innovation, just up our days. More recent times, with the introduction in 2014, with the grand selection, creation, with the additional geographical units that became that started operating last year's, that have been arousing so much interest among wine lovers all over the world. But this is why today we want to look at the future, and that is why we decided to celebrate such an important 100-year anniversary of the creation of the consortium by organizing a conference that looks at the future. And that's, the future, this is what we are going to be discussing today, in addition to the additional challenges, development of consumption, climate change, different, ever-changing markets. But sustainability is the most important thing. And this is why the title of this conference concerns sustainability and territorial identity, and truly the future of quality wine making and growing, and vine growing. And so how come these words are so full of meaning, such as sustainability, territory, and quality? And I will try to make myself clear. It is quite clear to everyone that, consumers of the important wines, of the fine wines, is always searching for products or wines that are unique and have a strong personality. Now, if we look at the main factors that contribute to the manufacturing of production of a great wine, the varieties, the cultivation methods, the vinification, aging methods, and so on and so forth, there is one factor that is really makes it something unique, which is the terroir or territory. The terroir is something that can exist only in a specific area and it cannot be imitated elsewhere. So a great wine, a fine wine in our mind, must have that something special, that extra thing that can be given only by the wonderful and magic interaction between the terroir and the people, the vineyard workers that can truly, and the winemakers that can really benefit what Mother Nature is giving them. So a wonderful combination of efforts between nature and mankind in order to respect the flavors, the flavors, the bouquet of the original terroir, and that's what is making wine so unique. Also, I would like to remember the words of a very famous person, Luigi Veronelli, who in the 60s, Veronelli is one of the fathers of Italian and food and wine critique. He's really a true philosopher of wine. The great Veronelli used to call this magical interaction between nature and mankind the soul of wine. He was speaking about the soul of wine. So the quality of a wine not only coincides with the pleasantness or with the ability of that wine to give you pleasure when you drink it, but rather quality coincides with the terroir, with the idea of expressing the terroir it belongs to. So it becomes an absolute priority for all of us wine growers to try and enhance the territorial characteristics in the wine that we are making by working in the vineyard, but also in the cellar. And because if we want to really have more territory into your cup, to your glass, we need to pay great respect to nature and the surrounding environment. So the question that everyone wonders about is, but how can we give more character, more terroir your wine if you do not respect and protect that terroir, that territory? That is why it's the relationship between quality and sustainability that is paramount. Sustainability not only because in terms of how to face the future in terms of environmental respect, but also in order to improve the quality of our wines. So by definition, a productive activity is sustainable when it respects natural resources such as soil, water, air, animals, and has the ability to repeat over time by becoming a sort of a continuous activity. So if we want our children and our grandchildren will have the same opportunity as we had, maybe to do one of the most wonderful jobs in the world, which is to be a vine grower, and they will be able to produce the best wines in the world, the great wines. We need to really work hard in order to cut down as much as possible the impact of our farming activity on the environment. Believe me that all the Chianti's vine growers have been working about that, are still working about that. Maybe in different ways, but we have a great awareness. All the Chianti producers definitely commit to become increasingly respectful of the environment. But this is the same pillar of sustainability. Everything starts from environmental sustainability, but the same attitude of respect that farmers must have about nature, that must be extended to people as well. So whether you have, co-workers, consumers, even the inhabitants of the areas where the vineyards are located. And this is the second pillar of social sustainability. There is a third pillar, which is economic sustainability. But I believe that this topic does not deserve much debate, much discussion, because it is necessary. Think about a company that doesn't have the chance to be financially sustainable. It will be destined to be sold or to go bankrupt or something. So economic sustainability is something that is absolutely necessary. But during the study of a specific sustainable project that we are going to tell you later about, all the work that we have been doing in the last 2 years, we highlighted a fourth pillar, which is about cultural sustainability. And it is an aspect that I would say can represent a great innovation in the Italian scenario, and that it can really create a great difference. I mean, something that is really appropriate to our reality, to our territory. So, in one word, all these introductory words I shared with you could be included in one single word, and that word is respect. Respect for the wonderful natural environment surrounding us. Respect for the people who are contributing to the production and for even those who are consuming and appreciating our wines. Respect for the territory's tangible and intangible cultural assets, including, landscape, local history, local traditions. And these are the thoughts that the Chianti wine growers have been that put at the basis of a true sustainability manifesto that our consortium director, Mrs. Carlotta Gori, will tell you after the very interesting speeches of our guests and the representative of the important denominations that I just mentioned earlier. In conclusion, many thanks to your kind attention, and I wish you a wonderful event and a wonderful experience. Many thanks.
Now I give the floor to Luciano Ferrario, who is going to be the moderator of this event. So good morning, good afternoon to you all. Now I'll let you know the way this afternoon is organized. We will have some institutions taking the floor, and then, as Mr. Manetti said, some winemakers coming from the best-known winemaking areas will take the floor. Then the manifesto, the guidelines will be introduced. We will break for a few minutes, and then a round table will be held with very outstanding representatives of the wine sector. Now I give the floor to the Minister Francesco Lollobrigida, representing the Italian government. Thank you very much. I thank the consortium, I thank Mr. Manetti, and I wish him to be re-elected for many, many years. There are no limits to his mandate, so I wish him all the best. Chianti has been an Italian excellence ever. Thank you for the organization of this event in this wonderful location. Coming here, I thought when May 14th, 1965, the first manifestation of Florence as a capital took place. That was the first time the King of Italy came and visited Florence, and all the municipalities emphasized the central position of this wonderful city, together with the university. It was a system, a nation. It was a nation not fully established yet. I don't know whether May 14th, 1924, the signatory personality fully understood the reasons why, being together, they could win a battle made of weaknesses of some systems. Being fragmented, being scattered is a weaknesses. I think that those men were forward-looking, and they understood that a consortium was a powerful and innovative way in order to design strategies so that the product was a product of better quality thanks to innovation and research, but mainly a product able to step into several markets. So a farmer by nature and a politician by background, Camillo Benso di Cavour, mentioned those values in the past. Research values focused on farming. Italy was mainly a farming country, together with industry and trade, through transformation, processing. So it is important to be able to step into international markets through shared rules and guidelines giving value to productions and products. Later on in Italy, the perception of the role played by farming evolved into a legal system. In 1924, thanks to Serpieri, who understood the importance of farming in order to maintain the territory, the countryside, he understood that that was a way to fight against hydro and climatology disasters. So another important character of who was able to delve deep some topics, Emilio Sereni, he described Tuscany hills as needing protection for what farmers did through their works and activities. Farming is also a kind of sculpture. Wherever farming is not there, area countryside suffers about that. So the farmers, as Mr. Manetti said, farmers think about sustainability because land is the most important asset they have. Sometimes it is inherited by fathers, by grandfathers, and farmers would like to leave the land in better conditions to their children and grandchildren. But they also have to protect people working with them. So farmers want to set up equal conditions of works and profits, sustainability, environmental sustainability, tightly connected with the possibility to make a living for them, their families, and their communities, whether it is a nation, an organization, an institution, as the EU. This is our focus, following the spirit of the founders, trying to implement innovation, sustainability, sector by sector, through regulations, through guidelines, as you do within the consortium. But we also have to enhance the product without providing additional risks and burdens for farmers. So we have to support farmers, and therefore we have to make reference to someone who carried out such an activity without any problems and failures. I mean, consortium paved the way to new activities, and sometimes the consortium is synonymous of wine. I do appreciate these products that are tightly connected with history, countryside. In some areas, wine and Chianti are synonymous, but this is not the case all the time. I hope that markets will evolve, investing more on quality, more on our products, for a moderate and aware consumption of wine, for the well-being, for a healthy diet and lifestyle. So sometimes we have to be careful because sometimes our wines, our cheese are criticized. But I'm a man coming from the countryside. I'm pretty simple. But in Italy, the life expectation is one of the best ones, and probably our way to way to drink, to eat has an impact on that. So sometimes we face misleading labeling, and that has an impact on trade activities. Nevertheless, I share all the introduction and thanking that Mr. Manetti anticipated. In particular, I do agree with the idea of guardians of the land, of the countryside. I do support the mayors who work very hard in order to manage all the activities with not that many resources, and I thank and support my colleague Stefania, and I thank all the institutions, starting from the town council representing the municipality of Florence and also the prefecture. Thank you very much to the entrepreneurs and to those who let us be every day, be proud of being Italians, but also be aware of the economic value of the fact that we were born in a small plot of land, gathering the maximum of biodiversity, of geographical integrity, of vine growing quality. Quality is the word that characterizes Italy abroad, and we have to keep on trying to conserve these characteristics in the future. Italy has to play its role, that is to say, helping the others in growing and in being aware. Thank you, and I wish you a fruitful work. Thank you, Mr. Minister. Now we have the intervention remotely by our mayor, Mr. Radda. Dear friends and colleagues, it's an honor and pleasure for me to welcome you for this historical event in the Salone dei Cinquecento, celebrating the 100-year-old anniversary of the consortium. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend for previous engagements, but I do thank my dear friend Mr. Manetti, all the representatives of Consorzio Chianti Classico who celebrates his centenary. And this is a long story that started with the black rooster that Vasari depicted in one of the pictures that you can admire in this Salone dei Cinquecento. And this is a way for this symbol to link the production with the countryside and with the strength of Chianti Classico, that is to say, innovation, because Chianti Classico Consortium has always developed values by innovating, by looking ahead. During my experience as a mayor, we carried out several initiatives. We went to Champagne, a twinned region of Florence, and with Hans, we promoted our Chianti Classico together with another European product, Champagne, which is as important as Chianti. At Stazione Leopolda, we organized several initiatives related to visual arts. Last but not least, the system of Villa Farms, Chianti Classico, is officially candidate to be included in the list for the UNESCO heritage. I will continue to work so that this application will be accepted. I have already talked to the general manager of UNESCO Heritage in Paris, and we have good chances to be successful. Talking about Chianti Classico means to talk about a dream, a terroir, about a product that distinguishes strongly the made in Italy, made in Tuscany. That's why I thank you. I wish you a fruitful work to celebrate this centenary, wishing to celebrate a second centenary, being proud of having such an important heritage, being proud to grow an identity which is tightly connected with our countryside, our families, our farms and wineries. So the alliances between Chianti Classico and the world will be stronger and stronger over the time. Thank you very much and happy birthday and viva Chianti Classico.
Invece in presenza con la fascia ordinanza l'assessore.
Instead, we have with us Giovanni Bettarini, who is the counselor for the budget law and other topics. So welcome to all, and I would like to greet you and welcome you to the Palazzo Vecchio. Welcome to the minister, the mayors, the guests, and all the different, stakeholders that are working in the Chianti Classico area. So today I was thinking that in 2016 we celebrated the 300th anniversary with the Chianti Classico Consortium. We celebrated the 300th anniversary of the first call of Cosimo of the Medicis, with great clairvoyance, instituted the Chianti Classico area. And so, in the last centuries, something developed and something was highlighted. First of all, the ability to work together, to network. And I think that this gives an important message to our guests. We went from 33 winemakers to many others afterwards, winemakers of different size, of different turnover and productions. But actually, they are absolutely able to work together and to make sure that the area, the name of a territory becomes a symbol of a product, a symbol of quality, of history, but also the symbol of something that is absolutely unique and unreproducible and unrenounceable, I would say. But also, what about the innovation? This is something that is part of history, part of the Chianti Classico, this history of the Gallo Nero, of the black rooster, that is represented on the coffered ceiling in this very room. And so, this is so close to our area. The black rooster is located along with the Chianti area towards the southeast, and then Mugello, another Tuscan region, is on the other side, because territory, history, and land are joined together in a very strong manner. But also, the consortium of the Chianti Classico did something similar in the last few years. What about the logo, about the promotion on foreign markets? What about the Chianti Classico collection, an event that became something essential, that is capable of recounting in an increasingly new manner what the Chianti Classico is doing? Because history, without looking at the future, without being topical with ever-changing time, is useless. It becomes just nostalgia and longing for the past. But history is the wealth of innovation, and at that point it can become a very powerful, driving engine. And this is something that we see every day. And what about the clairvoyance? I was very struck by what Mr. Manetti said about sustainability. The theme of sustainability is the theme that everyone talks about under every point of view, because you have to think about environmental sustainability but also social sustainability, and that can happen only if you put together all the different components, if you are able to actually have all the components working together for something new and strong and innovative. And so many thanks to the Chianti Classico Consortium. I would really like to thank all the winemakers and wine growers. And I think that the last 100 years of histories can be defined as glorious, if you allow me. And I believe that this history, will definitely lead to an important future, because I believe that our everyday's work must be based on respect and pride for our history, with an eye to the future and all that innovation can bring us. And so, hurrah for the Chianti Classico. Well, Mr. Gianni, the chairman of the Tuscan regional government, is unfortunately running a little late, but when he will get here, we'll give him the floor. I would like to say something about the Chianti Classico and share with you a few thoughts. It's true that the history of the Chianti Classico is really the history of the identity of this area, but also of the defense of the territory against all the industrialists that from the very beginning wanted to lower prices, of the wine. But then they found innovative solutions, as it was said during previous presentations. The Gallo Nero did that as well. And so we went from the transformation of a wine that was actually sold in bulk or in flasks to a wine that became famous on worldwide markets. And so with lots of difficulties, but also, subjected to a constant renewal, to a constant, refinement that led to the geographical units as well. So it was definitely a battle of defense. And in the Biennale, in the biannual exhibit in Venice, I saw the poetry of an Italian poet, Franco Arminio, who recounted very well what it means for a community to defend identity, boundaries, and their land. So the poetry says, we need a place, we need a hand, we need a house, we need a smile, something that will serve as our perimeter. Loving is to build a location, to build in a part of the world with the God inside. So if God is Bacchus, well, in my mind, the territory is here, which is the Chianti Classico. And if loving means to build something in a territory, then what it is, presented today, which is the manifesto for sustainability, is an act of love, for care, for conservation, for protection, which is the most precious item that this community can have. A wine that has roots in the past, that is a driving engine of the economy, but also it's a driving engine for the well-being of the families residing in the Chianti. So a wine that is part of history. So let's start with the with the presentations of the representatives of the most important areas of the world in terms of winemaking. And let's start with Matteo Ascheri, who is the chairman of the Barolo Barbaresco, Alba Langhe and Dogliani Consortium of Italy. So sorry if my voice is a little low. I am a past president, because I finished my 2 mandates 2 weeks ago. So see me as a sort of a, expired yogurt. So I am expired by now. Anyway, I would really like to thank you for inviting me, and it is very important for us to be with you and actually bear witness to what is happening in our areas. So there, many thanks to Giovanni Manetti. Happy anniversary. We were, the consortium that I was representing was established 10 years after, and in 10 years we are going to be celebrating the 100th anniversary. Giovanni, in his beautiful words, already spoke about values that are important to me. Sustainability, the term is something that I find bothersome. Maybe we should speak about respect for people, respect for nature, respect for the workers that work in the vineyards, and respect for ourselves as well. The concepts that we try to develop in the last few years are these. And as to the nature, I believe that our area took a huge step forward. These are family-run businesses that are often very small, and by their nature, they have in their blood the idea of preserving nature, because as they would be preserving their own backyard. And so this is something that we were able to see even with current studies. As the environmental impact got better, the residues that you can find in the soil and in the surrounding waters decreased. And so we started measuring environmental impact in our areas. And this is the most, this is the first concept. And then after that, I thought that perhaps we could do something better and more important. And first of all, promote research. And so we are funding research projects as to assisted wine growing that will definitely have an impact in terms of the reduction of pesticides being used in the vineyards. And so we decided to fund some studies at the national research centers and in several universities, and the results will definitely come in a few years. But anyway, there is something else. I think it's fair that everyone thinks about the impact provided by our vineyards. Everyone thinks about biodynamic, organic, winemaking. But if you look at the data, if you see that, what is absolutely green or organic winemaking, it's only 16%. But most of our companies can be considered as organic producers. But what I find important is that perhaps in the future we will have to question ourselves about the development of our viticulture. If we are going to have a number of more limited vineyards, the environmental impact will be less, because if you support biodynamic, organic, well, of course the impact will decrease. Then there will be less problems with our workers working in the vineyards. We'll have less wine to sell, and maybe that wine will be sold at a higher price. And this is a paradigm that we'll have to wonder about. Among all the things we can think about, we could even think that this is going to have the best possible environmental impact if we work like that. But we also worked on logistics of our wine bottles in the territory. So in addition to managing the vineyards correctly and the wine cellar correctly, we also have to consider the environmental impact of our trucks, polluting trucks and tractors and everything crossing through our territories that have an impact on the food and beverage, tourism that love to visit our areas. So we decided to lower this impact as well. We promoted a project called Ecolog, which aims at decreasing the number of heavy vehicles in our areas, so that in order to cut down their exhausts and the pollution coming from these trucks, thus promoting wonderful cohabitation with the tourists. And then respect. What about respect about people? Respecting people. This is an issue that it exists, and it's a big problem, and we can't deny it. We always talked about it, and I believe that this is the most important thing. You need to speak outside, but also inside. You need to speak outside of the consortium, but inside the consortium as well, because you have to make people understand that we live in a wealthy area, and we need to have a better relationship with our workers, with our employees. And so we made proposals. We actually worked with the prefectures, the police authorities. We made proposals to create better relationships with the workers. And so we spoke about the possibility of creating like a sort of a territorial cooperative that can protect the workers of our vineyards, but also the companies hiring them. And so this is what we have been trying to do in the last few years. It's not simple, and we need to pay attention to many things. You need to be very sensitive about many other things as well. Also, culture is important, but also corporate culture is important. And culturally in general, I would say. So we need to develop, we need to grow from this point of view. We need to become what we are already in terms of quality wines. We can already express our quality in the bottles of wines that are going all over the world, but we need to get even better in our, backyard. And so many thanks, and really, congratulations for this wonderful anniversary.
Allora, adesso andiamo in Portogallo.
Now we go to Portugal with Mr. Gilberto Igrejas, President of Port and Douro Wines Institute in Portugal. First of all, I would like to thank for the kind invitation to be here with you today. It's very important to be here in such a wonderful building, in such a wonderful room with my colleagues representing my region, Douro Porto. 278 years of history. It has been the first regulated region. And I will show you my region through this short video. Thanks. There are some technical problems related to the video.
Bem, se não é possível mostrar o filme, eu vou continuar a apresentação para não...
So I will go on with my presentation to avoid further delays. This video aims to let you know that this is the first region with two appellations, Douro and Porto. Our mission is to certify, protect, to promote, and to regulate the two appellations we promoted commercially. So our institute is based upon important values. To certify, we make reference directly to the Fish and Agriculture Ministry in Portugal. Our region covers 41% of the total amount of export of wines and 60% of all the DOP wines. In addition to that, in Portugal, in France, in UK, in Netherlands, in the States, in Belgium, we find the key markets for Porto and for Douro. Canada, UK, and France import our appellations, our denomination of origins. In 2023, 18 million of euros has been the turnover of this sector. The market can double these figures. Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, mentioned the countryside. I also would like to emphasize people continuing working in this area. They enhance these platforms. Douro is a subject in line with the key targets of economic, cultural sustainability. Our region faces some risks in terms of health and safety, of economic sustainability. Our region faces risks related to ecosystems as well. We carried out important initiatives in order to protect biodiversity and products that are very important to face climate changes, which are very deep and strong all over the world. We keep on going our work on plants, land, but also on continuity. We want to guarantee continuity for human health, for the health of farmers, who are the key players. Our work is based upon 4 pillars: life, production, nutrition, and environment. Together with the global development, these are key points for the general strategy of DORA, of our region, that has been accepted in 2001 as a part of the UNESCO heritage. So we want to fight the use of pesticide, of chemical fertilizers. We want to support the European Green Deal as the European Union does. That's why we are in line with the protection of biodiversity targets. We want to cut the footprint, the carbon footprint. For our farmers and for our producers, we want to improve the raw materials. We want to provide warranties for the supply chain. We want to increase the turnover. We want to cut costs for production. We want to emphasize more and more our connection with consumers, looking for new markets all over the world. We want to be in line with biodiversity, with the cut of pollution in our land. This is very important to protect environment and biodiversity. Here you have some examples of what we do in order to mitigate the impacts for biodiversity, but also for projects that are in line with the supply chain. For example, we have IoT probes and sensors that have been scattered all over the region. We are also very careful in using water. Using these sensors, we measure in real time the air humidity and the air temperature. This information is available in real time for our farmers, so that it is possible to preserve, to protect the vine varieties. The result of our initiatives is a manual published in July 2022. This manual has been disseminated among all our farmers that are more than 12,000, and for the agents for the commercial activities. I would like to emphasize some aspects, the positive factors of our region and some challenges and opportunities that we face. I also would like to emphasize the climate challenges that are very important to provide continuity in this area. Then also the changes of the population living in this area. It is important to pay attention to this aspect. Our region, our institute, is a member of EFOW, and we also focus on the country area like our colleagues do. Thank you very much, and I wish you a fruitful event, a fruitful work. Thank you.
Passiamo all'Oregon. Morgan McLaughlin, che è executive.
And now we are going to have Morgan McLaughlin, director of the Willamette Valley Wineries Association and Wine Foundation from Oregon.
Thank you to the organizers and contributors who have made today's historic celebration a reality. Congratulations to Chianti Classico on your 100 years of success. It is truly an honor to be here among the esteemed global wine community. When Oregon's pioneering wine growers envisioned planting grapes and making wine in the fertile Willamette Valley, they had a vision that went beyond world-class Pinot Noir. They saw something few others did. They saw one of the last great places on earth where the land had not been spoiled by chemicals and pesticides and other harmful agricultural practices. They saw a modern-day Garden of Eden where agriculture in general and viticulture in particular could flourish in harmony with the land and the people who live there. As one of the last unspoiled places on earth, Oregon represented not just an ideal place for grape growing, it represented a final frontier where wine growers could practice their trade in a biologically diverse and ecologically balanced environment. And they made that promise to themselves and for future generations. They would produce the highest quality wine possible, but they would do it in complete synergy with nature and place their responsibility as good stewards of the land they were given above all else. And now I think it's cue video.
You have a piece of dirt and you have wine going into people's mouths and they go, wow, that's good, but you know it started here.
Those guys in the 60s
that said, you know, we can grow grapes here when, you know, in those early days, I'm sure people said, what are you, crazy?
From the beginning to now.
It's like completely different, but different in a good way.
My name is Taquette Bramlett.
Ashley Campion.
Paige Knudsen-Cole.
Sophia Torres McKay.
Jose Cruz.
Bob Stewart.
My favorite thing about Willamette Valley wines, I think Pinot Noir especially, there's a transparency to it.
It really shows a sense of place.
My first sip of an Oregon Pinot felt as though there was a history being told as I was sipping that wine.
In 1970, when I was just in high school, we had just bought the land. There were only 35 acres planted in the Willamette Valley, and now there are 27,000. It's the evolution that happens in a successful industry.
I just think the growth has been amazing.
And people want to come here and invest in something that we're doing right.
The Willamette Valley is a destination now, and tourism is huge. You know, and with tourism, with world-class wine, comes world-class restaurants, comes wonderful lodging.
So I think it's changing a lot, but it's changing for the good, and always the camaraderie and the community is going to exist if we wanted to do that.
The collaborative energy that we have here in the Willamette Valley, that's what I think is so beautiful.
We're all helping each other all the time.
We just collaborate to everybody makes the best wine that we can.
And it's a community where, you know, like you pull a wine from your cellar and you know the person that made it.
Why we make amazing wine, and we have great winemakers, right? And we have great facilities, but we also have those people who are actually growing, who are picking, who are pruning the grapes, and you can't make great wine if you don't have great grapes.
These people in the vineyard, and it took these people in the winery, and it took these people on the sales side to get this to the consumer. And it has to be right all the way along, and it has to be fair all the way along. That's part of the sustainability as well.
Living and working in the Willamette Valley gives you a very deep respect for the place.
How we protect the land and how we really care about not just the final product and the quality, but how it was made.
It really is that ethic of stewarding the land over the long term.
It's so beautiful what we've already been given. Hopefully making it better if we can is really the ultimate goal.
We think it's the right thing not only for our land, but also for us, for our vineyard stewards, our crew, and also for the customer.
We're being authentic to who we are, and we're being authentic to our consumers and the community.
There's a lot more people, specifically from the Hispanic community, that are coming up. We're going from the vineyard now to owning our own wineries, and that's something that I'm really proud of.
Talking about legacy, right? This is going to be a great legacy for next generation.
Oregon is a world-class wine region because we've proven it.
There's so many good wines in the Willamette Valley.
You can taste that home.
From how it was made, to which barrels we use, to the vineyard that it comes from.
The aspect and the elevation, the season is all really important, but the people that make it, very much a part of the terroir.
I have definitely fallen in love with it here.
We feel very close to the land.
This is it, like this is why.
I wouldn't do it anywhere else.
We too in the Willamette Valley are celebrating a special anniversary. It has been 40 years since the Willamette Valley was established as an American viticultural area, so we share in your historic celebration today. With wine, location is the key ingredient. Each bottle showcases an authentic characteristic of the soil, climate, and temperature of the region, and the uniqueness of local growers and winemakers. In 2009, the Willamette Valley Wineries Association joined the Declaration of Place, the Declaration to Protect Wine Place and Origin. The Wine Origins Alliance works collaboratively to ensure place names are protected and not abused or miscommunicated to consumers. In 2021, the Willamette Valley wine region was officially recognized by the European Union through Protected Geographical Indication Status Approval. It was the culmination of almost a decade's work. Among the US wine regions, only Napa Valley and the Willamette Valley have this distinction. Oregon has long been a leader in environmental stewardship. The home of the United States' most protective land use policies, the first bottle recycling law, and the highest minimum wages and overtime for farm stewards, is also home to a wine industry committed to sustainable farming and winemaking practices. More than half of Oregon's planted vineyard acreage is certified sustainably farmed by one of several independent third-party certifying organizations. There are interesting differences among approaches to sustainable farming and winemaking practices among the major certification programs found in Oregon, including live, organic, biodynamic, and regenerative. But perhaps it is more interesting to discover how much these certifications are alike in their fundamental approach to farming and winemaker. And these are our basic principles. Consider the farm and winery as a whole system and take responsibility for the health and long-term viability of the whole. Encourage biodiversity and protect wildlife habitat on the farm. Protect soil stability, health, and fertility. Respect natural processes, reducing and limiting use of synthetic inputs in the vineyard and winery. Conserve natural resources, including water and energy, in both the vineyard and winery. Reduce the weight of wine bottles and overall packaging outputs. And probably the most important, which many have already spoke to, protecting the health and well-being of workers in the vineyard and the winery and the larger community. Along that, we announced 2 years ago the formation of the Willamette Valley Wine Foundation, a revolutionary charitable organization rooted in bringing together affordable housing, early childhood education, and healthcare for all impacted and supported by our wine community. Our effort is to raise $20 million US in 10 years to support this new initiative. And last year, we reestablished our commitment to our sustainability committee, bringing forth industry leaders to look at continued best practice and bring together the global wine community on what I felt today is the strong takeaway, the respect for land and our people. Thank you very much.
Allora abbiamo il piacere della Borgogna di...
Now it's a pleasure for us to give the floor to Mr. Thibaut Hubert, Chairman of Confédération des Appellations des Vignerons de Bourgogne, France.
Bonjour. Alors déjà, bon anniversaire.
Good morning, good afternoon, and happy birthday. You look pretty young, although you are 1 year old. Chianti ages very well. So whenever we talk about sustainability, about territory, after Chianti, we have to mention Bourgogne. 2,000 years ago, after monks, men and women in this region started to mold this terroir, their territory. In addition to that, they also tried to achieve a definition of climate. Since 2015, they are part of the UNESCO heritage. So I wish you all the best in order to achieve the same result for Chianti Classico. So sustainability. Sustainability implies the transmission. One of the key features of my region is the idea of monoculture, mono vineyard. The climate change, which is currently going on, the climate changes, the droughtness, the frozen period, the water excess, the very high temperatures, all these elements made us think about our layout, the layout of our vineyards. We have to preserve these typical features, this uniqueness. Borgogna vineyards and vine growing wanted to keep on doing as they did after the World War. So we have several typology of Pinot Noir, of Chardonnay. Everything has been reported and registered. We have special archives, but now we decided to create a kind of files, identity card for each vineyard in order to better understand the specific and the most important characteristics related to the climate change, because we want to preserve the typical features of our wines. That's why we are going to carry out micro winemaking so that our children and grandchildren will be able to preserve the specific characteristics of our area. We also launched a very ambitious project named Calope. It is a collective project we are implementing together with Champagne, Beaujolais, and Jura regions. Why do we join? Because we are like cousins in terms of vineyards. Jura is more a selection. Canopy is a clonal selection. Then I'm going to share with you a video. Anyway, we decided to build up a greenhouse of 4,000 square meters in order to protect the health conditions of our plants during clonation. Into this greenhouse, several sectors will be identified, one for each region. Here you have the time lapse of the building works, one sector for each specific types, variety of each region. There will be a sector for research on plants which have already been protected against disease. Then we will have a sector for new clones and clone multiplication and for grafts. We have already duplicated some grafts into this bioclimatic greenhouse. Works will be over by the end of June, and the first plant will be planted by the beginning of 2025, so that in 2027 the first plants will be available. Nurseries will receive some plants with already some information as for phytosanitary conditions. So sustainability implies transmission, technical challenges, quality, and phytosanitary conditions. In this way, we will be able to convey to our children and grandchildren we have to protect our region if we want to pass it by to new generations. This is what I think, this is what anyone working in vineyards wants to achieve. So thank you very much for your kind invitation. Grazie mille, and happy birthday once again. In conclusion, we give the floor to the chairman of now we give the floor to the president of Tuscany region, Eugenio Gianni, for the institutional welcome. Thank you very much from the deep of my heart. This is an important event. Giovanni Manetti, congratulations to you, because I think that you organized this event in the best ways, as a centenary should be organized. Frankly speaking, I'm very happy for the location you selected. This is the best place we can celebrate this anniversary, because here you have the key features of Toscana. Chianti Classico, Gallo Nero, representing what, for the first time in the world, September 29 of 1716, Cosimo Medici wanted to protect. That's why he designed that ban that defined the area, the countryside, where Chianti Classico, Gallo Nero should have been protected, and the ban was closed with a salac, and this ban wanted bottles to be closed with a salac, so that qualities, requirements, and characteristics of wine couldn't be modified or altered. From Etruscans to nowadays, wine has always been exported more than any other product. That was a way to identify a territory, an area, where several municipalities were located: Gravinchianti, San Casciano, Barberino, Castelnuovo Berardenga, and the three municipalities of the Chianti League, Radda, Gaiole, and also Castellina. And we also have a municipality, Poggibonsi, represented by the mayor of Siena. This municipality was included only partially. Chianti derived its name from a reality. I noticed that Mayor Pescini is very happy, because Gaiole hosts a museum that was opened a few weeks ago. Gongola is the name of the river, and but the new name for that river is not right, is not correct. I will suggest that the river, giving it the name to the wine, will be named as it was in the past. So here in this hall, you have all the key features of the Tuscany. You have 16 panels on the walls representing the provinces of the Grand Duchy of Tuscany. Provinces. Here above, I have Prato, Pistoia, Pescia, the Pistoia Mountains, the lower Valdarno. Then we have Fiesole, Mugello, Casentino. Down there you have some references to the second panel that is devoted to Chianti and its real estate. So this is the skyline of the original Chianti League, that is to say Radda, Castellina, not Gaiole, but Broglio, which is included into the Gaiole municipality. Bettino Recalzoli, who was president of the council twice, he was very proud to come from there, and he was present when Florence was nominated capital of the newborn nation. Here, that was the headquarters of the Italian parliament, and Bettino Ricasa was very attentive to the interests of Italy, of Tuscany, but also of the Sangiovese, the original one we are here to celebrate. 1 year ago, we started to establish the consortium in order to protect this wine. And at that time, we started to think about the DOC for the consortium. And we think also about the black roster on a golden background that you can find in this panel. From here, from Salone dei Cinquecento, from the center, from the heart of Tuscany, when Tuscany became a Grand Duchy under Cosimo de' Medicis, well, here we can remember at best the main features of this region in order to protect Chianti Classico, following the modern laws as well. Cosimo III, here in this panel in the middle of the hall, you have the apotheosis of Cosimo. And around it, we have the stem of arms, the coats of arms of the arts and jobs, because you have an angel with a crown, but surrounding you have the symbols of arts, of activities, of businesses, of the economy. The message is, I am a Grand Duke because I have the power, I have the economic power. And that's why it goes without saying that the link between the city and the countryside has to be depicted. According to the legend, the black roster started from Florence, but he was puzzled because he had a hook on his head, so the roster didn't sing at the right time. That's why the boundary was not in between Florence and Siena, but Chianti was included into Florence area, the Florence province. So I do not want to go into details because even if I'm fond of history, but Chianti Classico is a strong element for the Florence identity, for the Tuscany identity. Today's anniversary is one of the key events for the main players of Chianti. 8 municipalities, Professor Manetti, the winemakers, which are the key players of Chianti Classico today. But this is an important event for Tuscany as a whole. I'm very happy about that. This is a way for us to make reference to our artists. Michelangelo, here we have a wonderful statue. Michelangelo started his career making a sculpture of Bacchus. So wine is identified with the beauty of Tuscany in the Renaissance. Last week I was in New York celebrating Giovanni da Verrazzano. In New York, the longest and most important bridge is named from him 400 years ago. This bridge, he described this bay, the Hudson Bay. He also describes the capital of the world in his diaries. And Verrazzano was very important in the USA lives, as it was Lapo Mazzei, because from Monticello he exported vineyards and he shared wines with Jefferson. So Filippo Mazzei was proud to share this wine Chianti together with Carmignano, with Valdarno Superiore, with Pomino, the four typologies of wine. This is the first appellation in the history. So 100 years after the establishment of the consortium, we have a new dimension which is fully plunged into history. That's why this anniversary couldn't be celebrated but here in this hall with these beautiful panels representing the position of Tuscany in the world. Thank you very much.
And now let's continue with the Maxime Toubar and David Chatillon, who are co-chairs of the Champagne Committee.
Messieurs, chers amis, d'abord vous dire la...
Dear friends and colleagues, I'm very happy to be with us representing the region of Champagne for several reasons. Also because there are no anniversaries without a bottle of champagne, and also because we share many common ambitions in the Chianti Classico, but also at the Champagne. Dear Giovanni, in your presentation, you spoke about three important values, which was durability, sustainability, quality, and territory. And these are things that we know very well, in the Champagne region, just like you know. What this Champagne means, first of all, it means that what is important for us is a collective effort. We want to progress together. There are more than 16,000 producers, winemakers in Champagne region, and everyone's progress is important. The progress of everyone is more effective than the wonderful, actions of just a few people. And so this means to have ambitions, to plan carefully, because we need to check what we actually did. We actually correct, adapt, we change, and we plan new activities. So we do plan, we check, and then we act. And very concretely, in the last 50 years in Champagne, we had a very important environmental ambition with the biodiversity, with the carbon plan, the soil, the water plan, and every action plan allowed us to define ambitions, but also new objectives. Our ambition in the midterm is to have 100% of our champagne producers to be certified. We created a label that is called Sustainable Viticulture in Champagne, and the Champagne region, and then with all the other certification, such as the HVE and many others. And therefore, we need to support all the efforts made in this direction. And Champagne is really, the region of Champagne is really committed to present the results of the last 15 years. You can see here we cut down the carbon, print of 20%, but with the bottles. We actually cut by 50% the pesticide and fertilizers, but also we try to cut down 90% of the industrial waste and also 100% of the effluents that comes from our vineyards, but also 70% of our areas are covered by an environmental certification. But that is not enough. We also try to cut down, pesticide, and truly, we also have to, we are the first vineyards for the sexual confusion, because we really try to eliminate all sorts of complications. We also, one of our goals is to have net zero carbon by 2050. And so our ambition is to drive the entire supply chain. It's not just 50% of the vine, of the wine growers or farmers. We want to have them all reaching the same, objectives. And actually, we have we are two co-chairs. And now I'd like to give the floor to my colleague, and I wish you a wonderful anniversary, and we'll be happy to keep on celebrating with you later today. Ladies and gentlemen, and representatives, and dear Giovanni, and the friends, but also allies of the Chianti Classico, I would really like to actually join my colleagues' grateful message of thanks. And we are very happy to be with you. And our Champagne organization dates back to like 80 years ago. And so we are very, grateful for having invited us. Mr. Manetti said before that there are different pillars in sustainable development. And I would like to actually mention to you, again, what my colleague said as to environmental protection, but the Champagne region was always interested in the pillar concerning economy, but also, social cohabitation. And I can tell you, I am very proud, but also humble in saying that we are trying to create value, because the Champagne region has just a limited production of 0.5% of the entire vineyard surface. It accounts for then less than 10% of the world consumption of sparkling wines. And we have, but also it is the first worldwide denomination in terms of value for over 4 billion euros, and it accounts for about 30% of the value created by sparkling wines in the world. And we are present in over 200 countries. So what was always very important in my area, because President Manetti mentioned it, no company can be, can develop if they are not economically viable. We always made sure that these values created on the markets are also divided equally between all the stakeholders of our supply chain. So we have 90% of the wine grower produce the grapes, And so we have a strong interdependence between these two professional family of the vine growers and the winemakers. And so it's important to have an important cooperation with the vine growers, and the cooperatives need to have high quality grapes. And so in our interprofessional decisions, we also make sure that when it comes to buy grapes, well, they are, these are contracts and agreement that last several years, and they try to also share part of the value, because the vine growers are going to be paid a certain percentage of the final bottle. And these are very important subjects, because we are very careful to make sure that France and the EU can allow us to continue this, method of work, because we believe that this is part of the Champenois balance. And like Thibault said earlier, we became part of, we were recognized on July 4, 2015, just like the Bourgogne area, as part of the World Heritage by UNESCO. We were finally approved as World Heritage, and it is part of a long history that allowed the people from the Champagne region about their incredible value of their territory. And as it was mentioned earlier, I know that even the Chianti Classico is a candidate, and we'll be very happy to share with you our experience for the application of the candidature, and also what followed after. So many thanks, and hurrah for the Chianti Classico.
Now we started to introduce the manifesto, the guidelines for the sustainability of Chianti Classico, which is the core of this event. And I give the floor to the manager of the consortium, Mrs. Gori. Good afternoon to you all. I'm very touched, and I'm very grateful for being here on such an important event for our consortium. I started my professional career within the consortium, and I have been working for it since now. I thank and welcome all the participants and the institutions, because they share with us your experiences. I think that this is an outstanding chance for all of us. I thank EWC and Wines for Origins that helped us in organizing this event. A special thank to Mrs. Minelli, who worked very hard for this event. And I also thank the following speaker, Mrs. Fallini. I know what being here today with us means for her. We decided to be ready and available to listen to without self-celebration. We want to pay attention to others' experiences of other appellations that made the history of winemaking. I thank all the members, the winemakers, for their daily contribution, for their work, so important for the future of our activities. I also thank my chairman, Mr. Manetti, who strongly wanted me to be here to talk about this important step for the consortium to protect and enhance the Chianti Classico and its area. In the past, we were wondering how we could celebrate this centenary, this important target and result. We decided to look ahead, to consider our future, trying to promote a vision without daring to be at the same level as our founders, but implementing the same method. So planning for the future, thus protecting our products. Our task is easier than theirs because we already have a solid house, a solid foundation. The title of this Congress makes reference to an important topic, sustainability. We waited a while before talking about it because we wanted to emphasize our specific values. We wanted and we want a sustainability with our distinctive features. That's why we had to study our area with the required time. Sustainability started as a movement by few clever, enlightened businessmen and theoretical people. Over the time, sustainability turned to be an essential element for the sector. With the support of scholars, associations, organizations, universities, everyone with its own method, interests, and visions. That's why we decided to organize a roundtable gathering all these representatives. But we are vineyard winemakers, so we decided to start by vine growing, by the environment, because this is our key environment, because every day we have to assess the local resources, water, air, soil, non-renewable sources. So farmers and wine growers are the guardians of the environment. In the past, this expression was a little bit romantic. Nowadays, recently, this expression turns to be a definition. Actually, it is part of a law that is combined with our destiny. Law number 24, February 24th, 2024, 2 months ago. It is the regulation to recognize, to acknowledge the farmer as a guardian of area of countryside and environment. This law identifies our actions and it defines our activities. So we thank the government, and we have here a representative of it. The respect of environment, as Mr. Manetti said, implies the respect for human resources. We are local resources, we are renewable, but we are native ones. Our co-workers, our consultants, the citizens of our communities are human resources. Therefore, we will work in order to develop social sustainability. Social sustainability must be a formula for the community development. Therefore, without economic sustainability, there is no businessman, there is no enterprise. That's why we are here to share with you our manifesto, our vision of a sustainable Chianti Classico as a countryside, as a production. These guidelines will be accepted by our members who will implement it in order to achieve the certification for these guidelines. We have two simple targets: to cut environmental impact by managing the woods, the territory, by preserving potential, landscape, biodiversity, and features. So we have to deal with fertility, health and long-lasting plants, biodiversity as a source of life. These are the aspects we have to focus, and we have not to give them for granted. Secondly, to enhance growth and social and cultural resources of the area. Remember these words, cultural resources. But our area, our wineries, have always contributed in a basic way in order to achieve these targets, in order to implement this vision in practical terms. These are the sound foundation of our new project that wants to be inclusive and exclusive, because this project will be Chianti Classico project. Some figures to better understand the project. 52% of our area is biological, and this percentage has to increase quickly since several companies are changing their trend. 62% of our area is wooded, and 80% of woods are permanent. And this is not a detail to be underestimated. Most of our farmers have a surface less than 10%, 75% of our farmers. Therefore, our territory is not meant to carry out the intensive exploitation. We have a strong spirit of cohesion. We celebrate 100 years of life, but we are not the only consortium in our area. There are several ones, such as the Chianti League or the Foundation to Protect the Chianti Classico area. This foundation dealt and deals with the culture of sustainability. The consortium of Chianti Classico, a rural district, a biodiverse district, 11 associations of wineries that are all represented here today. Recently, therefore, we studied our area in details, because we wanted to implement projects other than biodiversity. And the result of this study is today's event. We also studied the area in order to implement UGA. We studied geology, pedology. We have been helped by friends, by co-workers such as Mr. Masnaghetti, who gave an important contribution. Recently, last summer, we covered approximately 6,000 square meters. We walked through all these areas in order to better understand how we can protect this area against the diseases and the pests. Our target is to achieve the acknowledgement of villa farms for the UNESCO heritage. And this application proves once again that our landscape is beautiful, that every day we commit ourselves in order to protect such an area, such a landscape. I mention figures again. I do not love figures, but they tell us a lot. 341 sites protected, more than 650 registered villas, which overlook mutually. It's a rural puzzle protected over the years thanks to the commitment by wineries and farms that want to recover dry walls or unpaved roads. During the latest 50 years, 74% of the land has been preserved by changes. Only 4% is subject of urban activities. This area continued to provide incomes and profits. So putting all these data together, we realized that we had to organize and to put into practice a project on sustainability, adding one additional pillar, that is to say cultural sustainability, because the tangible and intangible assets, values, interactions can help to achieve the sustainability of an exclusive and inclusive territory. This is an important component for biodiversity too. It goes hand in hand with social and economic sustainability, and this is something unique for few territories, and we believe we are one of these areas. That's why our guidelines include the cultural sustainability too. Just a few minutes to share with you some details about this document aiming to achieve the certification of Chianti Classico, the sustainable one. We have 57 guidelines, such as those that a farmer can select those that are the best one, the most suitable ones for their farming, for their activities. Wineries, farms should be in line with these guidelines in order to respect their own peculiarities. 57 guidelines are pretty a lot. It's ambitious, and our members are asked to be in line at least with half of them. In the future, we'll add additional guidelines in order to develop and grow the sustainability of our area. We have 3 macro areas. The first one, which is the predominant one, is the environmental sustainability. So our members will not be asked not to use chemical pesticides or fertilizers only. They will also be asked not to use impactful equipment and to use alternative resources. They will be asked also to keep 20% of the rural surface using biodiversity. They will be asked to safeguard water, bees, guaranteeing the presence of plants and trees suitable for this insect, at least for 5% of the area devoted to wine making. We are going to ask to have shrubs 10% and to cover with grass 2/3 of the area, and to use bottles made with 50% of recycled glass. They will be asked to invest in order to recycle materials and to manage the use of water. The second macro area, social sustainability. We strongly want to go behind the laws and regulations that already exist, being the basis of more virtual behaviors for a stronger community, for a district that should be a driving force for change and cohesion. So we want at least 20% of staff, of the employees, should live in the areas of our denomination. Equally, 20%, at least 20% of suppliers of goods and services should be based in our area. A real social inclusion. And we should also go behind the law restrictions concerning the employment of people belonging to protected categories, such as disabled people or fragile people. And we also have to increase the rate, the percentage of women working in our sector. Thirdly, cultural sustainability as a special identity of our model of sustainability, because the tangible and intangible cultural asset goes hand in hand with the Chianti Classico and increases the specific features and the uniqueness of the production. And the same applies for future generation. In order to achieve the sustainability of our area, we should include among our guidelines the key actions aiming to preserve the components of the cultural landscape. Most of them are object of specific regulations, but we want to go behind that. We want to have additional rules and guidelines to protect specific buildings, avenues, assets that already exist. The same applies for the systems of villa farms. We want to preserve the global vision of these villas farms in terms of visibility too. We also want to keep unpaved roads in addition to the trees, plants. We also have monumental and historical trees and plants. Our area is full of them. Sometimes we are not aware of it. So all our members will be asked to commit themselves for all these points, and through mitigation contributions. We are going to ask them to organize parking areas, rest areas, and to increase biodiversity, to protect not only the environment of our area devoted to winemaking, but also the value of its cultural landscape, which is not so devoted to winemaking. In conclusion, we perfectly know that the technological evolution in our sector is a must, and business sector will be ready to do so. Don't think that we are for the happy degrowth. We will be there through technology and growth, but our target will always be to safeguard identity, past, because today we do believe that for us, sustainability means to improve the quality of our wines through the best terroir. We want to produce wines protecting all the natural resources through the best methods with the lowest impact on the environment for future generations too. We want to produce wine by protecting cultural heritage, by enhancing our cultural values that our area conveys century by century. Thank you very much for your attention and enjoy this anniversary.
Allora, parlavamo appunto di...
We were speaking about the villa and farm factory, and now we are going to have the presentation of Professor Eugenia Falini, who is in charge of the scientific side of the UNESCO heritage application of the consortium.
Grazie a tutti. Mi associo naturalmente.
Many thanks to everyone. And I would really like to thank for having invited me to participate to this important and relevant anniversary. And of course, I would like I would like to share with you the values that this territory is expressing thanks to its landscape, highlighting an aspect that was mentioned many times, but that can require some additional definitions. The territory we are speaking about is well known to all of you. It is about 70,000 hectares between two different provinces, Florence on the north and Siena south. And it has a main characteristics that on the one side there is quite a defined boundary that is the mountains, and on the other, I mean, the areas are much more opened, both north but also west, with a very specific geographical shape. So what are the main features of this territory so that we can define it as a sort of a cultural landscape? As mentioned many times, this famous painting by Giorgio Vasari is definitely helping us, or actually helping us in this very room and hall, as to the allegory of the Chianti. And if you remember, like Mr. Gianni was saying earlier, this is a celebration of a place of Tuscany, of a location of Tuscany that is very relevant, that is mainly featured by its countryside, but also it is a location full of strong places. And by that I mean important places, I don't know, fortified citadels or fortified towns that have a very definite spatial shape. But at the same time, the Chianti area is full of water and it's very fertile. And therefore, it is absolutely able to foster agricultural productions and farming productions. And so what we see here depicted as an allegory, here it shows basically that we are midway through the 16th century. The area of the Chianti was already experiencing a great development. It was a stage during which it was a stage of territorial renovation, renovatio territoriale in Latin, therefore affecting the Chianti area in the light of how it had been built over the centuries since the Middle Ages. And now, at the time, it was, during the second part of the 14th century, it had been overwhelmed, just like part of Italy and, the rest of Europe, by famine and wars that definitely, put the previous model in a crisis. And so this profound renovation, led to a new farming economy that the two main cities, the two dominant cities, were promoting with great determination, and that, of course, the Medici's government supported the Chianti redevelopment as well, as we see here. So this needs to be, there is another aspect that needs to be highlighted. And so this is the emblematic symbol of the rooster that bears witness of a community in terms of physical community, but also common purposes. And the community is still very much alive. So this is the image of a cultural landscape that is absolutely identifiable. And therefore, it is not just the manifesto for the celebration of the prince, but rather it bears witness to an ongoing strategy that was looking at the future. But why do we speak about an ongoing process? Because actually, this area which is quite isolated as to the great movements and the large, roads of communication. Well, this is an area that has been inhabited for a long time. It goes, there have been pre-Roman and Etruscan traces were found. Also, there are many elements from the Roman times, from the Romans. But during the Middle Ages, this area definitely was organized in such a manner that it allowed it to become like a reference area. So this is an area full of little squares. The little squares are the fortifications. The road network is quite widespread, as you can see. And also, it had a very limited number of small villages and centers that then became the main villages of the area that then were mentioned in the painting of Vasari, that were actually included in the painting of Vasari. So the great change that was experienced between this situation where the inhabitants were living in the small fortified villages, because this area was unfortunately hit by constant battles between the two dominant cities, Florence and Siena. Well, this is, something happened midway through the 16th century. And we can see that from the images included in the precious cartography that were found in the Medici's maps. And so even at that time, the early buildings started being built outside of the fortified villages. And so little by little, the inhabitants started going towards the countryside rather than living in the fortified villages, because the new system that was promoted was that, the most appropriate format for this territory was to have farm and farm workers developing over the centuries. And so this is something that we can see also in the historical iconography and we can also find that in in half of Tuscany, in more than, good part of Tuscany. And so, these are documents concerning the properties of the Panzano's factory or farm that used to belong to the hospital, to one of the hospitals of Florence, and and they had property in this area. And this is one of the early documents concerning such a farm. Other important documents that were providing very important and precious information, especially for the scholars, that show that the farm or podere were, in a modern architecture term, these farms were based on having a house that was for the workers to live in. The house was living in a dominant and control position over the property and also over the agricultural lands that they were tilling and working on. And then, in addition to a very precise definition of the various crops, there was also an area devoted to the forests and woods that we can see in this area was quite dominating. And other examples. And so what's important is that inside this document, we were able to even see how the homes for the workers used to be. This document was already mentioned several times, and what is relevant is that this territory continued being particularly important when the dynasty of the Medicis ended and the Dukes of Lorena took over. And they kept paying, even the Lorena family continued paying attention to the agricultural land in, around, and outside Florence. And they even created an academy devoted to agriculture and geography. And then, the academy was established in 1753, and it's still ongoing. And with this, I would like to conclude. There is an additional stage that can be opened up and actually took an important turning point in the 19th century, and it was, explained very well by this painting by Telemaco Signorini, who, when presenting the Tuscan landscapes, decided to depict the most important features that are still nowadays at the basis of our landscape. That, as you all know, it is still a landscape that has been admired since then by all the scholars, historians, travelers, painters that have been admiring its beauty. Like Ferdinand Brodel said, this is the most touching landscape of the world.
Bene. Facciamo un breve break con la produzione.
Now we break, a short break, but please stay where you are because the round table will start immediately.
Bene, allora richiamo sul palco il Presidente Giovanni Manetti.
We'll give the floor to Mr. Manetti, but also Pietro Antinori, Tessa Capponi Boravska, Gian Giacomo Gallarati, Scotti Bonaldi, David Gleave, who is a master of wine, Monica Lerner from Wine Advocate, Professor Andrea Lucchi, who is an entomologist. And please take a seat in the order of call. But also let's not forget Alessandro Masnaghetti, who is a cartographer of the vineyards. I think there is an armchair missing, probably. Can you hear us correctly? Yes, we can. And so, as Chianti Classico is going towards sustainability, was it completely, easy peasy, or was it like a strong debate and discussions in the different companies? I mean, it was quite easy. That, gave us great satisfactions during these 2 years of work. I mean, there are 500 members within the consortium with 500 different stories. And, each member is very different from the other. But there are some common values. And these common values are recognizing the importance and the role played by the consortium as a shared house for the future, but also love for the territory and excellence and passion for high quality viticulture. And then, when we are deploying, a project that, speaks about the future, and we want to leave the new generations a better world, but also give them the chance to be, vine growers, and like we did. And so if we start putting together a plan about the future, talking about sustainability, that really fosters the continuity of the different farms, at the same time improving the quality, improving the relationship with the people, working with us or living nearby the areas. These are very important purposes, and that includes as well the, all the work that everyone put together, and it was a great pleasure for all of us to do it.
Another quick question. Previously, we were talking about Barolo consortium and about the possibility to enlarge the area for vineyard. Is that a way to be sustainable? Well, I think that everyone should find its own way. To us, only 10% of the total area is covered by vineyards, and more than 62% is covered with woods. That guarantees a huge biodiversity. And Chianti Classico, this percentage for Chianti Classico has not been changed for many, many years. And we think that that's enough to satisfy the need for our products, and it is perfectly sustainable. You started your career in 1967 as for Chianti Classico, a very lucky year, we said. How has the perception changed in terms of relationship with the environment? At that time, we didn't talk about sustainability. So how has it changed over the years? Without any doubt, a revolution took place. First of all, as for Italian wines in general, because since 1967, when I started to work in my winery and to deal with Chianti Classico, from that time till now, a deep change occurred as for wines. In terms of sustainability, at that time, it was almost unknown. It was an unknown word, actually, sustainability. Nowadays, we talk about it too much, maybe, and sometimes in a too wide way. We abuse in using this term, but sustainability is totally different, luckily, I dare say. As for Chianti Classico, wineries are almost all of them are family-run wineries, and by definition, they are very sensitive towards sustainability because they always pay attention to future, to next generations, and they always try, by nature, by definition, they always try to keep and create conditions so that the next generations will be able in the future to make wines that are as good as the one we produce or even better than that. That's why awareness, that's why this value of sustainability is much more perceived. This is also due to the fact that consumers are aware of it and they want sustainability, but winemakers are also ready to understand the importance of that. Recently, you invested in the new wine cellar at Bargino. Did you do that as a sustainable investment? Did you follow sustainable criteria? There is an echo that hampers the understanding of the question. Well, I mean, sustainability from a different perspective. First of all, in terms of landscape, because I believe that Tuscan landscape, as we have often said, is one of the kind. It's wonderful, and this is an unbelievable added value for our product. And nature gave us this landscape as a gift. But this is also the result of humans' intervention. Man forged the landscape through several works during the years, as it is the case of churches, castles, villas, farms. And also, as for farming, anyone working in Chianti Classico, they did so with a special attention to landscape. Farming changed, métayage reached an end, new techniques were introduced, and landscape changed as well. But I think that it improved, I dare say. That's why I think that as operators in Chianti Classico, we have the responsibility to try to keep this beauty, this beautiful landscape. we should protect it. Because this landscape is based upon harmony. Tuscany landscape in general and the Chianti landscape in particular is based upon harmony, integration. Nothing clashes. Nothing is detrimental to landscape. So what we did, well, we did so trying to follow the tradition. We therefore built up a winery which is well integrated into the landscape, although its architecture is pretty modern. But the basic idea is to be fully integrated into the landscape. We excavated a hill, but we tried to balance everything by planting vineyards on the top, on the roof of these facilities. So continuity, but in the respect of harmony and integration of landscape. Moreover, we also have to bear in mind the energy sustainability. Since this facility is underground, we also save energy. We can keep the best temperatures during the winemaking and aging processes of the wine. So that was the key principle that guided us when we decided to make such an investment. I believe that consumers, visitors, they also appreciate the principle we wanted to respect. Thank you, Piero. Thank you very much. Monica? You referred to consumers who, to readers who are from USA, but also from all over the world. Readers are ready to understand green actions by wineries. To what extent? What do you think about it? Well, we recently studied our readers and their trends because we wanted to perfectly understand the perception of sustainability-related themes whenever they decided to buy. First of all, I should tell you who our readers are. We have a senior reader, mainly men, and his purchase power is very high. They spend more than $2,000 a month in wines, but we found out that sustainable wines is not a priority right now. We identified 16 points, such as rating, friends' suggestion, reputation of a specific winemaking area, grapes, and out of these 16 points, organic wines ranked 13th, so pretty at the bottom of the scale. In addition to that, we did the same with our younger readers, and the dynamic is totally different. So in conclusion, we can say that we face a gap, a generational gap, as for this topic. However, we at Wine Advocate, we also focused on the way we can help to change this situation. We think we are at the beginning of a pathway, and we think we have to work very hard in the future. Our founder is a former lawyer of Baltimore, and he paid attention to the consumer defense, consumers protection. Advocate is a key word for us. Therefore, we wondered, what do we want to convey? Therefore, we created our own manifesto. We established our own guidelines because it is not possible for us to examine, to give an opinion on all the wines all over the world. So we have to consider quality. So this manifesto includes the relationship with the sustainable wineries, and we also established in a word a way to look for these wines. In other words, we want to convey, unlike our competitors, we want to talk about wines having a soul, and quality plays a key role, and it is tightly connected with environment protection and with the topics we dealt with today. So first of all, we created a filter in our database. Each certified wine as organic or biodynamic is signaled. So our reader can look for that wine using the filter. That was important to us. Secondly, we created an award named Green Amblet Award. This award is given to wineries that are excellent for the topics we discussed today. And for this award, we have 3 pillars, very similar to the ones mentioned for the other areas and for the Chianti Classico too. First of all, the importance of enology and winemaking, so protection of soil, promotion of biodiversity, minimizing the use of chemical and synthetical products. Secondly, organization. An holistic approach for the whole organization, a wording and rewording environment. Thirdly, identifying wineries which are also ambassadors of a culture, which promote the themes we mentioned towards the consumers and communities. Do you have one single award or an award each? This is our 3rd year, and we rewarded 50 wineries all over the world, 8 in Italy, 13 in France, 9 in the USA. These wineries satisfied these 3 requirements, which are pillars for us. Probably next year, Chianti Classico will be rewarded as well. Of course, that's a promise. We mentioned readers, David. So as for the market, as for sustainability, do you think that the market is ready to accept that in terms of market and consumption? Yes, I believe that the market is really ready. Young consumers in particular. I work in UK, but I notice the same elsewhere when I'm traveling all over the world. In terms of production, Labelly Wines, the company I established, I mean, we import from 27 countries, 400 winemakers, and they all focus on sustainability mainly, most of them, bio wines, but they always look ahead. And they pay attention to environment because they know that there is no future without environment. They also know that young consumers, those who buy for restaurants, for wine cellars, are very sensitive to the origin of the product and to the way the product is made. So I think that the market is more than ready for this kind of approach. Are they ready to pay more, and to what extent? Recently, I read a survey that is carried out every 6 months. Several young people are interviewed, younger than 25 years of age. And I noticed that they're ready to pay more for a wine that is made in a way they believe in. In addition to that, another person being interviewed said that the wine you choose tells a lot about your personality, about the way you are, more than any other drink. So generally, as a lifestyle, the consumption of wine is an expression of it. So these generations make important decisions for the future, for the society, for the environment, much more than what we did in the past. So do you think that we are committed enough? I mean, do you mean that European wineries are committed enough in terms of sustainability? Yes. Yes, we are going to the right direction. And the experience of Consorzio Chianti Classico is very positive. But it is also true that there are several areas in the world which are not that suitable for winemaking, for organic winemaking. But it is possible to make wine in a sustainable way. This is accessible for anyone. So we were talking about certification. Now let's talk about FEDERDOC. Do you have any data about biological, biodynamic certified wineries and their production? Good evening. I would like to start by talking and by sustainability. We should be sure about what we are talking about. We shared the experience of Chianti Classico, of other consortia all over the world. So the idea of sustainability is pretty wide, with specific features, with important innovative initiatives. But whenever we talk about sustainability, it is difficult to find one single model in order to identify sustainability with one single farming. Sustainability is dynamic. It never stops. So saying that sustainability characterizes one single type of farming is not correct. The world is changing, the climate is changing, consumption is changing. Therefore, wineries, in order to tell an effective sustainability, have to share several models existing in Italy, but also elsewhere in the world. And that has to be based upon their own model, making reference to some fundamental pillars. The organic activity is very important, but it is not the only one. It may be a model for some regions, but not for all. Sustainability is also a way for us to check the impact of equipment, of activities. So we have to be able to say, well, sustainability is a complex topic, but it is something that involves everyone. Many farmers believe that sustainability is a fundamental requirement, a fundamental target we have to achieve. It's a priority. It is also important to define and to check the definition of sustainability, of the certification of sustainability. because the consumers are more and more sensitive to this topic, new generation in particular. So this is the key point. Somehow we have to certify what we are telling, and this is not an easy task. Sometimes it is also expensive, but then wineries will achieve results, important results, although it will take time, because going through these steps nowadays, because nowadays anything can be sustainable and can be not. So that's why consortia can play a very important role, because they can build a bridge among countrysides, areas, products, in order to be more effective towards a wider range of consumers. We have always believed that sustainability is a priority. That's why we supported and promoted sustainability standards that have been implemented for a few years. And more and more wineries are in line with these standards. They consider an added value. We are implementing models. For example, Equalitas is just one of the models we have just introduced. They are all in line with this requirement, which is not symbol, but it is an added value for the winery and for the area they belong to. You were mentioning demanding investments. So on one hand, we have to invest. On the other hand, we have to develop the economic sustainability, that is to say, the profit for the winery. How can we combine the two aspects? It is a long pathway. In the long term, it is possible to achieve results. You need a consistent communication to obtain results, because generally, step by step, sustainable wines are taken into account. Maybe the process is lower than we would like it to be, but nevertheless, there is an ongoing movement, including international buyers too. These people try to have to prefer some wines or the sustainable wines compared to others. This is the case for Northern Europe. Therefore, this is a driving force for a system that sooner or later will involve anyone, and therefore sustainability will be different area by area. It will vary according to the area, but we must have some specific references to be checked. We have to be able to let the consumer understand that what we are telling is true. It is not just a corporate story. I think this is essential. And as I said, the consortia can play a key role in this sense. Thank you.
La mappatura, abbiamo parlato prima.
Alessandro, we spoke about mapping and many other things. You actually used even drones in order to actually have the tech, in order to see the different units. This mapping that you did, after all, concerns gathering data in terms of protection. Absolutely, yes. The purpose of my work in the last few years was to try and get to know the vineyards, the areas, and to actually even create, perhaps with a lot of self-esteem, to in a way become a reference point for new generations, but also a new work tool for companies, consortia, and winemakers and wine producers. And I'm referring here to the subtitle of this event, which is sustainability and territorial identity. Well, we spoke a lot about sustainability and identity today, but first I speak about the territorial identity, because then from that, then you get even to the sustainability. Carlotta spoke mostly about environment, people, and culture. Well, my interpretation of these three words is people, culture, environment, because it is only if you can educate people through culture, it is only then that you'll have that people will start respecting the environment. It is impossible to convey respect for the environment if you didn't create earlier like a sort of like a background for them to do so, or you weren't able to contextualize things. In fact, the word that was mostly used today is respect. Respect is a beautiful word that Giovanni used and Carlotta as well. And if you allow me, I would really like to thank both Giovanni and all his colleagues for this cooperation that we had for many years and that I have been doing for many years. And I wanted to thank Caterina and Silvia because many of my plans would have never been implemented. But respect is very important, like Carlotta was saying. And I believe that you have to focus on local companies, on people living in the area, which on the one hand could be like, shielding yourself from the outside world. But I believe that the Chianti Classico was an example of inclusion. People came from all over the world, from other parts of Italy, and they became definitely locals, more so than those people that were born there. And so, many, farming entrepreneurs came as well, and they brought their added value. Because the key, everyone is bringing their knowledge and their skills. And if you created a territorial identity, then they understand that when they come to the Chianti area, they need to get attuned to you. They need to understand your values, and they have to respect them. And since I'm familiar with the Chianti inhabitants, you don't even need to say so. In the last 30 years, we spent together. Actually, it's more than 30 years. I mean, I definitely saw that. Professor Lucchi, climate change led to a complete upheaval in people's life, and actually in the vine's life. And so could it be an additional reason to promote sustainability? Certainly, climate change has an important effect on pathogens and pests and different insects. And so we are, working on different fronts. First of all, global warming, as the increase of average temperatures affects the insects and pests population in terms of survival, but also in terms of life of the generations that survive whether they can reproduce their reproduction, and so on and so forth. There are different types of pests that have different needs in terms of heat. And now that it's warmer, there are some pests that are going north. And another important change coming from climate change is that we have exotic species that can get, accustomed very easily, because now, before they used to die during our cold winters, and now they don't do it anymore. So there have been several pests that came from other countries, and they gave us a hard time. But also climate change is forcing us to review control strategies of harmful, species. And we learned how to control such pests, but now with the new climate changes, we have to do it again. I consider climate change as a challenge, so that we can, on the basis of research, we need to help the stakeholders, to face this new reality. I'm really curious to know what an entomologist does. What do you do now? Well, I left my lab years ago and decided to work with companies, even with companies from the Chianti Classico, because I wanted to be in between the university and the company, like what the extension services do, like a sort of an applied research that can truly help companies to use those strategies that are available, that are effective, but that by themselves they're not able to implement, maybe for fear to explore uncharted territories. And so we had interesting experiences with some Chianti Classico companies trying to apply these new strategies that are more sustainable than in the past. And, we were successful as well. Is there a pest or an insect you're particularly taking care of these days? We are dealing with the insects and pests that are particularly affecting vine growers, and actually there are some insects that are carrying a serious disease, and so we are working with the vine growers in order to resolve the issue. It's a new pest that came about 150 years ago from the Americas, and it was kept under control over the last few years, but now it's becoming increasingly widespread. So the Chianti Classico made an important investment in order to manage this pest, and so it is definitely an example that the other consortium could follow.
Per ottenere il riconoscimento dell'UNESCO. La sostenibilità è, immagino, un fattore importante per presentare.
So now the floor to you. It is very important to what you studied in terms of sustainability, especially when it comes to the application to be part of the World Heritage. In fact, this program was called Agenda 2030 for Sustainability, and it was presented years ago. Now we are, applying as a cultural landscape, and so we need to be sustainable as well. And I can say that the program that was presented today reflects fully our research and all preparations that we did for that. Also, I thought over some terms that are heard today, which is respect and identity. Identity comes from knowledge. So this study that we are promoting for the UNESCO candidature is very relevant, and I think it's quite revolutionary. And so you need to know the area that surrounds you. You need to know its history, and this cultural aspect is very relevant. Respect instead stems out of awareness. Awareness, as it was described, to be like custodian or stewards of this territory. I would extend the basic. Carlotta Gori spoke about farmers as stewards. I would actually extend to everyone that live in specific territories. And therefore, I believe that thanks to knowledge and the training, and the training of a specific identity, you can reach the awareness that you are a true custodian or caretaker of the area you're living in. I believe that the Comité de Champagne, or the Champagne Committee, helped us very much. I went to one of their conferences a couple of years ago, and I was asked a question that, made me freeze. And then it was an incredible idea, because they asked me, how come our brand, how come that this wine can be recognized everywhere? And I said, well, it's the Black Rooster. That's our brand, our identity brand. So the Champagne Committee, the Bourgogne, anyway, they really helped us. Do you know how long it will take? I cannot, I don't know. I cannot foresee the future. Let's go on with our work, and let's cross our fingers, and fingers crossed. Now, Giovanni, we are coming to the end. I would really like to thank everyone for their kind attention and patience. You have been sitting for 3 hours, and many, many thanks. I would really like to thank the wonderful audience. I would also like to thank the speakers and the previous speakers that spoke on this stage. And I leave the floor to Giovanni for the last conclusions for the day. Many thanks, Luciano.
A special thank for you. You have been the moderator of the two events, the press conference this morning and this congress this afternoon. I think that is the best way for us to celebrate the centenary of the consortium. Celebrate this meeting in such a beautiful place with the participation of many friends, many winemakers, the institutions, the experts, journalists, many outstanding guests who shared with us their experiences, their projects. A beautiful event, and also a very useful event for all of us. I think that this afternoon we learned something more. We understood better the importance of sustainability, but also the link between sustainability, the terroir, the wine quality, the future, and so on and so forth. I think that beautiful words have been uttered, and more often than not, presentations by people coming from very different places and situations, well, they repeated the same words. 100 years ago, values, targets, projects were shared by the founders of this consortium, and likewise today here I noticed the same sharing, the same participation. So I thank you all, I thank the speakers, and Viva Chianti Classico.
Time in the world, enough for life to unfold all the precious things love has in store. We have all the love in the world. If that's all we have, you will find we need nothing more. Every step of the way will find us with the